Good morning, Patriots. How are you today? This is Mike Cook coming to you live from Central Missouri. It is approximately 8:32 a.m. on 2/18/2021. What a year it's been so far. I hope you all have a nice, warm cup of coffee. I hope it isn't too cold where you're at. I hope the power's on where you're at. It's cold as can be here. There's snow on the ground, but the sun, that big ball of fire, is shining in the sky. So that's a good thing. As you're jumping on, say hi where you're watching from. I'd like to scroll through and see the comments where everybody's watching from. I do appreciate everybody being on because, as I'm just some little old guy here in Central Missouri ranting about whatever's on my mind that day, whatever's in the news that day. If you guys aren't watching, then there's no point in me even being on here. So I appreciate you all coming on. Please share. If you're watching this on Facebook, subscribe, hit the bell, or Facebook on YouTube, because I'm live on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please follow me and share on both platforms. Share. Go over to Rumble after I get it loaded up there, and follow me on Rumble and hit the little Rumble button and share the video from there. It does help. I'm going to talk today, usually around about the news or whatever, but today I'm going to talk about Rush Limbaugh. What can you say? I grew up on this man. So there I was, 19 years old. 1991, isn't it? 91, see, 90, 91, yeah. It was May-ish. I don't remember exactly when I got back from the Gulf. Fort Benning, Georgia, 197th Infantry, heavy mech. We were there for the duration, arrived in country September 4th of 1990. So it would have been May of 91 when I got back. They gave us 30 days leave, and I was driving across the country to Lancaster, California, where I grew up. And somewhere along the line, New Mexico, Arizona, somewhere in there on the I-40. And if anybody's ever drove, you know how desolate it can be out in that neck of the woods. And let me tell you, back in my day of being in the Army, we didn't have internet. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have Facebook. There was none of this. There was no radio. There was no, iTunes. There was, whatever CD you could bring with it. It wasn't even CDs. Really, it was tapes. I mean, CDs had come out, but really it was tape decks at the time. And so the only radio we had was Armed Forces Radio Network. And they played like the same 6 songs over and over again. That kind of got boring. So when you've been gone a year and you get back, of course, me, it was really longer than a year because I was in basic training in AIT for a year before I even got to and then we were deployed. So it was longer than that I wasn't on, I was a 19-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid. I was listening to Top 40, Hollywood Hamilton out of Hollywood, California on the radio. I don't remember 1077 or something. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But, so I get back to the States and I'm driving across the country and I'm bored to tears with the songs I've never heard before on the top 40 stations, right? So somewhere in New Mexico, Arizona, I start flipping the channels, I'm flipping through the channels and I can't find anything on the FM. So let's see what's on the AM. And I start flipping through and I get to this guy and he's talking. And I'm listening. Now, mind you, at the time, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I grew up in LA County, Lancaster, northern LA County. My school was a mix of races and colors and ethnics and all that stuff. And, I listened to rap music at the time and NWA and all that stuff. I was a punk little kid. I didn't know any better. I didn't even know what racism was. I didn't know what politics was. I didn't know Democrat from a Republican. My dad was a Democrat. I knew that. My dad was the president of the union there in our little town of the School Employees Union, and he was a Democrat. Why was he a Democrat? Because he was a union man, and union men are Democrats, right? So I flip it to the channel and I hear this guy on the radio and I'm like, what in the world? Man, I kind of like this dude. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, this is common sense. This is what's in my brain. I just don't know how to make it come out my mouth. Right? It's 1991. And since that day, almost every day. I mean, I think I started my own business just so that I could listen to Rush Limbaugh without somebody telling me I couldn't. I mean, I've been self-employed since 2003 or self-unemployed. I don't know. Anyways, and I have listened to Rush Limbaugh almost every single day, except for, a few days here and there where things have come up. But almost every single day, I wait for 11 o'clock Central. My entire adult life. Biggest compliment I've got since I've been doing this. And I've been experimenting with lives on Facebook and all that stuff. I tried to build my businesses with it. I've done several different things. I've poked at it here and poked at it there and tried to figure it out. Followed some online gurus to get some ideas. And I was doing all kinds of stuff. But it was this time last year when the Lord spoke to me. And I really do believe God was saying to me, look, I want you to do something. And I've been, as I was trying to build my business stuff, I feel like, man, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But he says, I want you to do something. I want you to get on there and talk about whatever it is I put in your mouth. I want you to follow me. So this time last year, that's what I started doing. And, some of y'all have been watching me long enough to remember my panic video when I got on there and was talking about the toilet paper and I had the mask and the toilet paper and the gun and the whole thing. Anyways, the great toilet paper run of 2020. Many of you remember that. But since I've been doing this, the greatest compliment that I've got was a friend of mine calls me on the phone and says, man, what's going on? Is Rush Limbaugh listening to you? I said, no. Rush Limbaugh doesn't know that I exist. Why do you say that? Because what you talked about this morning is exactly what Rush is talking about today. And he's saying the exact same thing. And I said, well, I've been listening to the guy since 1991, almost every single day. So it doesn't surprise me that I think the way Rush Limbaugh does. I've been studying at the school of the EIB, where the learning never stops, my entire adult life. Told myself I wasn't going to act like this. Understand, this man changed the world we live in. When he started his radio show, there was no Fox News. There was CNN, ABC, NBC, and CBS. There was the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and that was it. There was no alternative thought. There was completely controlled. When this man started his radio show, there were no podcasts. There was nobody else. And they said it can't be done. You can't do this. You will not be successful at this. But he did. And he changed the way it worked. You couldn't go on live in the middle of the afternoon and do a 3-hour talk show. No one's going to sit through a 3-hour talk show, said all the smart people. But he did. And he paved the way. He created a whole genre, a whole idea. And not only that, but you see, there would have been no Newt Gingrich in the contract with America if it wasn't for Rush Limbaugh. There would be no conservative movement. There would be no Freedom Caucus today. There would be no free-thinking conservative thought today if it wasn't for Rush Limbaugh. He changed the game. He held the Republic. Understand, in 1988, when he became national syndicated Rush Limbaugh, the Rush Limbaugh show, talent on loan from God, that greetings conversationalist across the fruited plain, the most dangerous man in America with half his brain tied behind his back. When he became that guy, the Republican Party had not been in power in the House and the Senate for 40 years. It's been one party rule. And the Republicans were damn proud about it. They were proud to be the seconds. They were proud to take the role as the minority, the noble opposition. We're going to feel our role and do the things that we do. And then this guy comes along and says, why don't we be winners instead of losers? And Republicans said, hey, and by 1994, Clinton was president, Newt Gingrich comes along, they take the House, they take the Senate, they take the House. I don't remember if they took the Senate that time. It might have been later. So somebody correct me on that. I don't remember. It's been a long time ago. But they took the House for the first time in 40 years. And that's because of Rush Limbaugh. Because if he hadn't been on the radio, if he hadn't getting people fired up, if he hadn't getting people thinking like me, that, hey, it doesn't have to be the status quo. The Democrats don't have to control it in perpetuity, although that's what they're going to do now. This guy come along and changed the whole game. Created the whole opposition side, created the whole free thought conservative movement. Before Facebook, before YouTube, before Twitter, before the blogosphere, before there was all these other talkers out there, he introduced me to ideas and thoughts that I hadn't really considered before. He introduced me to thinkers like Walter E. Williams. What a man. Thomas Sowell. He introduced me to the likes of Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, and Dan Bongino. It's amazing the things that this man accomplished. And I apologize to y'all. I'm seeing that I'm getting a little notice about my internet. I talked to AT&T. They're supposed to be working on it. I think I'm going to switch companies. I don't have a choice. It's just the way it is. They can't do any better than they got. So anyways, I apologize about that if this thing's getting a little sketchy on your end. It looks okay on my end. So, some of the things, I just got a few notable quotes, notable things that Rush Limbaugh said over the years. It's like, I'm not going to assume that liberals are stupid, as they do with conservatives. No, I attribute it instead to more fraud and deceit. Can we see that today? It's about panic. It's about fear. It's about instilling in the American populace with terror, dread, apprehension of the future. It's about making you think your way of life is destroying the world. America is the root of all evil in the world, according to the environmentalist wackos. You, the citizens of the United States, ruin everything. This man, because he was willing to think freely, because he was willing to give a different point of view, it changes everything. The whole notion, the concept of individual liberty is gone. The whole concept of limited government is gone. The whole concept of the Bill of Rights, the whole concept and purpose of the Constitution is to limit government, not limit the people. If you're on the verge of thinking you're losing that, then to me, that's it. That's the ball game. That's nutshell. I've said it too. Liberty. Liberty is where we're at. Feminism was established so that so as to allow unattractive women access to the mainstream of society. That was Rush Limbaugh. I remember when he said it. You know, I remember a lot of things about the Rush Limbaugh show. Maybe y'all remember some of them too. You remember Buy a Yugo? You remember that one? To the Elvis Presley in a Ghetto, you know, a liberal guy and a liberal gal on a used car lot on the edge of town by Yugo. You remember that one? 40 miles to the gallon and her knees on the dash, gonna save enough gas for all the rest. And there you go. Do you remember? I mean, there's so many iconic things, so many things that are in our society today that are because of this man. So much conservative thought is attributed to this man. Racist, a person who wins an argument with a liberal. Is that not so obvious today? Compassion is no substitute for justice. Excuse me. I hope you guys got a strong cup of coffee this morning. Liberalism is a scourge. It destroys the human spirit. It destroys prosperity. It assigns sameness to everybody. And wherever I find it, I oppose it. I'm a huge supporter of women. What I'm not a supporter of is liberalism. Feminism is what I oppose. Feminism has led women astray. I love the women's movement, especially when walking behind it. I hope that doesn't upset some of you ladies, but some of you guys know what I'm talking about. I remember when Rush Limbaugh said that. The most beautiful thing about a tree is what you do with it after you cut it down. You know why there's a Second Amendment? In case the government fails to follow the first one. That's where we're at today. The difference between Los Angeles and yogurt is that yogurt comes with less fruit. It's like my little joke. Did y'all ever hear that California is a cereal state? Yeah, fruits, nuts, and flakes. I can say that. I'm from there. It's a great place to be from, let me tell you. I gave a lot of thought to how I was going to approach this today. You know, as I started out, if you didn't see the beginning of this, go back and watch the beginning. My whole political life, my whole adult life, has been formed and shaped by this man. Of course, you know, I get some of my ideas from people he's introduced me to, like Walter E. Williams or Mark Levin or some of the others that have come along. When I first started listening, I didn't even know who I was then. You know, I call myself today a constitutionalist conservative, an originalist. My focus is on liberty and not rights. And that's because of this man. I am unconcerned with the Republican Party because they've sold us down the river. And that's because of the way this man thought. Just looking at some of you guys' comments. Nobody's ever going to fill that spot. I've had a lot of my friends, who do you think should go there? Mark Levin, Dan Bongino, you know, who should go there? Who should fill that spot? Who should be that person to take the spot that's now vacant? Nobody. There's nobody to fill. I mean, yeah, they'll put somebody in the time spot. They'll sell advertising off of it. But there's nobody that can do what he did, who could start from nothing, zero. Somebody might be able to build upon what he did. And many are. I mean, Sean Hannity's got his show, and Mark Levin's got his show, and there's so many out there. I don't even know anymore. I don't even watch them all. Who can? And they all have their place, and they all have their style. They all are who they are, and they're all, successful, bright, free-thinking conservatives, libertarians, or whatever. But not this guy. So anyway, what are you going to do today? I guess we've all graduated from the EIB School of Higher Learning of Conservative Studies. Because the professor has gone home. I'm sorry. Never thought it would affect me this much. Lordy, Lordy. Rush Limbaugh. The man, the legend. The way of life. With talent on loan from God. Paid in full.